Fear. It's something we've all faced. But did you know the Bible is filled with stories of people who turned their greatest fears into acts of extraordinary faith? From a young shepherd boy standing against a giant to a queen risking her life to save her people, these stories remind us that faith has the power to conquer even our deepest fears. Stay with me as we dive into these timeless tales and uncover how they can inspire courage in your life today. Welcome to this deep dive into faith over fear. Today we're exploring some of the most powerful and inspiring stories from the Bible. These aren't just ancient tales, they're lessons that resonate with our modern struggles. Fear of failure, fear of the unknown, and fear of standing up for what's right. By the end of this video, you'll discover how the faith of biblical heroes can inspire you to face life's challenges head-on. So, grab a cup of coffee, get comfortable, and let's get started. Our first story takes us to the battlefield of the Valley of Elah. Imagine this. A giant nearly 10 feet tall named Goliath is taunting the army of Israel. No one dares to face him. Then, a young shepherd named David steps forward with nothing but a sling and 5 smooth stones. David's unwavering faith. He tells King Saul, "The Lord who rescued me from the paw of the lion and the paw of the bear will rescue me from the hand of this Philistine." The confrontation. David boldly declares to Goliath, "You come against me with sword and spear, but I come against you in the name of the Lord Almighty." The victory. With 1 stone, David strikes Goliath, proving that faith in God is more powerful than any weapon. How many times do we face giants in our lives? Whether it's a daunting task, a difficult decision, or a personal fear, David's story reminds us that faith gives us the courage to face the impossible. Next, we move to the Persian Empire, where a Jewish woman named Esther becomes queen. When her people face annihilation due to a royal decree orchestrated by the wicked Haman, Esther is faced with a choice: stay silent or risk her life by approaching the king. Mordecai's challenge. He tells Esther, "Who knows but that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this?" Esther's decision. She says, "If I perish, I perish," and goes before the king to plead for her people. The outcome? Her courage and faith saved the Jewish people from destruction. Esther's story teaches us that faith sometimes means taking risks for a greater good. It challenges us to ask, what is the fear holding us back from fulfilling our purpose? Our next story takes us to Babylon, where Daniel, a faithful servant of God, refuses to stop praying to him despite a royal decree that makes it illegal. His punishment? Being thrown into a den of hungry lions. Daniel's faith. Knowing the consequences, Daniel continues praying 3 times a day, trusting God completely. The miracle? When Daniel is thrown into the lion's den, God sends an angel to shut the mouths of the lions. Daniel emerges unharmed. The king's response. King Darius decrees that everyone must fear and reverence the God of Daniel. Daniel's story challenges us to remain faithful even when our beliefs are tested. It's a reminder that God's protection is greater than any fear we face. Now picture this. The disciples are in a boat, battling a storm. Suddenly they see Jesus walking on the water. Peter, filled with a mix of fear and faith, asks to join him. Peter's bold step. When Jesus says, "Come," Peter steps out of the boat and begins walking on water. Fear takes over. As Peter notices the wind and waves, he begins to sink and cries out, "Lord, save me." Jesus responds. Jesus immediately reaches out his hand and says, "You of little faith, why did you doubt?" This story reminds us that faith is about keeping our eyes on Jesus, especially during life's storms. Even when we falter, God's hand is always there to lift us up. Our final story takes us to the city of Jericho, where Joshua leads the Israelites in a seemingly impossible mission, conquering a fortified city without traditional weapons. God's unconventional plan: march around the city once a day for 6 days. On the 7th day, march 7 times and then shout. The Israelites' obedience. Despite the unusual strategy, they follow God's instructions to the letter. The victory. On the seventh day, the walls of Jericho collapse, and the city is theirs. Joshua's story shows us that faith often requires trusting God's plan, even when it doesn't make sense. When we obey with faith, the impossible becomes possible. These stories, David and Goliath, Esther's bravery, Daniel's faith, Peter's trust, and Joshua's obedience, all share a common theme. Faith has the power to conquer fear. Whether you're facing a giant, a storm, or an uncertain future, remember that the same God who empowered these heroes is with you too. So, what's your Goliath? What's the fear holding you back? Let these stories inspire you to step out in faith and watch how God works in your life. If this video inspired you, don't forget to hit the like button, share it with someone who might need encouragement, and subscribe for more faith-filled content. Let me know in the comments which story resonated with you the most, or share your own experiences of overcoming fear with faith. Until next time, remember, faith conquers fear. Faith.